Hey YouTube, this is Lucy from KBeautyHobbit.com. About a year ago, I made a video about common skincare mistakes that I see other people making. But today I want to focus on specific things that I used to do wrong, and some of them are very recent, so I hope you find this helpful. Number one, and this is probably my main mistake that affected me for years, was fighting my oily skin with very harsh alcohol-containing products. I have combination skin with an oily T-zone, and that used to be a bigger problem for me in the past because every time that I saw shine of any kind, I would try to fight that with alcohol. I even used alcohol wipes on my face, like with straight up rubbing alcohol. It's a miracle I even have skin left at all after that. And what ended up happening was every time I would dehydrate my skin so severely, it would fight back by producing even more oil, trying desperately to hang on to the very little moisture that was still left there. So ever since I stopped doing that and focused on hydrating my skin instead, and typically that's in the evening because I don't want to overdo it in the mornings and because I'm lazy in the mornings and tired. But ever since I started using very hydrating toners, very hydrating essences and serums, and then locking it all properly in with occlusive layers like moisturizers, my skin has gone so much better. It definitely is a lot more even. I still have combination skin. I still can get shiny sometimes, especially in the summer, but it's nothing at all compared to what it used to be like. Mistake number two, and I think this one is super common. I see this in skincare communities and on YouTube all the time, and that is focusing on the ingredients list instead of the formulation itself. There are all of these ingredients that get vilified. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I would refer you to the Lab Muffin Beauty Science PhD channel or to Dr. Dre's channel. She's a dermatologist. They both have wonderful videos about this topic. I used to pick up a product, turn it over, look in the back, or find the ingredients online, and if I saw anything like alcohol or denatured alcohol, which is the drying alcohol, I would just not even try that product. I understand now that the ingredients list is just that. It's a list of ingredients. It's not telling you how much is in there or how it's formulated or what is the purpose of including that ingredient in there. And I find now that there are wonderful, wonderful products like sunscreens and some moisturizers even that have drying alcohols and that work really well for my skin. So I think there's definitely a benefit to looking at the ingredients list if you have known sensitivities or some sort of allergies, or if you just have a preference against something. But just to look at a list of these ingredients and then say, oh no, I'm not even going to try this product and assume that it's going to be drying, for example. Again, I'm just using alcohol here as for illustrative purposes. It can be any ingredient, but alcohol is one of those popular ones. So just to say that based on this specific word in the ingredients list, this product is not for me, I think that's a mistake, and that's one that I used to make. I've loosened up a bit on that, and I actually try things now a bit more open-mindedly. There's still some things that I avoid absolutely 100%, but as far as alcohol specifically, for example, I have definitely loosened up. I wouldn't want a toner or an essence where that's the first ingredient because that is probably going to be too harsh for my skin. But in other things like sunscreens and even sometimes sheet masks, it actually is working okay for me. Number three is something that is an ongoing struggle for me, and that's doing extractions on my face. But while I'm still trying to minimize that somewhat successfully, my biggest problem was doing extractions, but then not focusing on any sort of long-term plan to improve the cause for the need for the extractions. This was a run-on sentence. What I'm trying to say is, if I had a blackhead, I would extract it, but then I wouldn't do anything to prevent future blackheads. Or if I had a whitehead or an inflamed pimple, I would squeeze that, but then again, not do anything in the long term to prevent it from happening. Now I know that there are products that have BHAs, for example, and some other wonderful things, willow bark extract, etc., that can help prevent these things from happening in the first place. Products with mugwort for acne. I did a whole video on what I do now for red and irritated skin instead of picking. So check that out if you're interested. But basically, I've learned that prevention is key, and that doesn't just apply to wrinkles and sun damage. It actually applies to a lot of different skin problems. So I try to do that instead of just treating the end issue like a breakout. My next mistake is not using SPF properly. I used to, just like many people, only use it before the beach. But even when I wisened up and started using it daily on my face, I was forgetting really key areas: the neck, the sides of the neck, the ears, and the lips. And I recommend a separate SPF for the lips, not whatever you're using on the face. Like a lip balm with SPF would be a better choice, just because the formulation is nicer and is meant to stay on your lips. But for ears and the neck, whatever you're using on the face will work. And this didn't click for me until I started watching Dr. Dre's channel, which is absolutely a wonderful resource for any skincare enthusiast. I definitely highly recommend that you check that out. My next mistake has a little bit to do with that whole fighting oil with alcohol issue, and it's overwashing and over exfoliating. I am definitely guilty of using the so hated St. Ives apricot scrub daily in high school. Again, it's a miracle I have skin left at all. I use these Clean and Clear and maybe Biore products. They were very astringent and very drying, but I basically would wash my face until it felt squeaky clean, and I thought that's how it was supposed to be. I would get products for oily skin and they would just strip and over dry, and it felt so nice to me to have this dry, tight, matte face. But the problem with that was, of course, as we all know, if you ever experienced this, is that tight, matte feeling only lasts for a little bit. And then as soon as your face is able to, it just overcompensates and becomes this oil slick, and it's just awful. So now I'm a lot more gentle to my face. I actually enjoy face washes made for dry skin that are way, way, way more gentle, and I'm just having such a better time with my skin lately. I really wish I knew all these things in high school, because while I didn't have horrible problems like a lot of people have, and in general, my friends always thought my skin was good, I definitely had some unnecessary pain and suffering when it comes to that. My next mistake is not using anything at all around the eyes. I mention this in my reviews often that I absolutely despise heavy eye products. When I was a child, I thought that my eyelids were sweating, and they're not. I just have very oily eyelids, which maybe isn't even that bad as far as aging goes. Sometimes oily skin ages a bit slower than dry skin. But I, for years, wasn't using anything around the eyes at all. And now that I've had some wonderful Korean products, which I've mentioned in different videos and in my blog posts, I am so appreciating eye products. And you don't need a dedicated one. You can use a moisturizer that works on your face and on the eyes as well. But just using something, it makes such a big difference. I actually look like I sleep way, way more than I do. And so it's definitely doing something. I don't have a lot of problems with my eye area yet. But again, this is where that whole prevention versus treatment argument comes in. So I'm trying to avoid big problems here. The next mistake is a big one, and I bet I'm not alone. And this is something that my mom has been talking to me about since I was a child. She would tell me, stop raising your eyebrows or stop frowning. You're going to get wrinkles. And you know how things go. Sometimes when moms or dads say the same thing over and over, it almost just becomes like background noise, and I wasn't paying attention to that. But I really understand now how much facial expressions affect everything. And while at 15 I could get away with that and my face didn't show it, now I can definitely see some signs of aging there. So for example, I've noticed that when I play video games, I must be frowning or do the concentrated face, because afterwards, if I go to the bathroom or whatever and I look in the mirror, I can actually see those faint lines right here, the 11s. I can see them now. They're not showing up all the time because I just haven't hit that stage of it, of seeing them all the time. But the lines here on my forehead, that's definitely from raising my eyebrows, which I do a lot. So I've been making a conscious effort not to do that. I am trying to relax my face. I sometimes will take my hands and very gently kind of rub my forehead to try and relax the muscles underneath, because unfortunately, as we age and skin loses elasticity, all of these creases that happen from the underlying muscle movements, they tend to just stick around now, and we don't bounce back as quickly as we once used to. So I'm really working on that. Another thing I do is I use either the specially made tape patches, or sometimes I just buy the cotton kinesio tape and cut it, but you can put tape on these areas that are moving, like here in the forehead. So you'd smooth make sure the skin is clean and dry, and kind of smooth it out a little bit. Don't pull or tug. And then you put this tape on, and it creates awareness. So every time you frown, you feel that, and hopefully you'll stop. I'll put that on sometimes for an entire day on the weekend, and at the end of the day when I take it off, my forehead is so smooth. But I'm really trying to make a conscious effort not to frown, not to raise my eyebrows, and just kind of be a calm person as much as I can be. My next mistake is, I think, something that a lot of people with combination and oily skin tend to do, and that's not using moisturizer. For a very long time, I thought that I don't need moisturizer because I already have these oily zones, oily T-zone, and the moisturizer would just make it oilier, just make it worse. So I would not just overstrip my face with all of my cleansing efforts and my rubbing alcohol fiascos, but I would then make the problem even worse by not putting moisturizer on. Now I understand that actually very good moisturizer, sometimes even ones made for dry skin, actually does a great job overnight especially. So I would cleanse with gentle cleansers now, use lots of hydrating toners and essences and serums, and then lock it all in with great moisturizer, and it really helps balance my skin out. There are wonderful products on the market for all skin types, so no matter what your skin type, there is a moisturizer out there that will probably work for you. So look for one or consult a dermatologist. I'm not one. Obviously, I'm just a skincare enthusiast, but my overall takeaway is that a well-picked moisturizer for your skin type or for my skin type is well worth the effort and the time and the money. This next mistake is super recent, and I discovered that it's a mistake very recently, and I'm kind of embarrassed because I thought I was so smart and that was a tip of mine, and that's using concealer instead of eyeshadow primer. And I thought I was just a genius. I did not invent this. I read it somewhere that you can do that, and I've done it because I don't go through concealer very much. Thankfully, usually I don't have that many breakouts, and if I do, just some foundation takes care of them. So I don't go through concealer very often. And I thought it was such a great idea that's one of the ways to use it up before it goes bad, is to use it as an eyeshadow base. Well, what I learned recently from Robert Welsh's channel, and he's a makeup artist, and I highly recommend his channel. Him and James Welsh, if you're watching me, you probably already know who they are. Anyway, I keep hearing on Robert's channel that you are not supposed to use concealer as an eyeshadow base. It makes me feel a tiny bit better, because it sounds like I'm not the only one who thought that that was a good idea. It sounds like it's such a common hack that's not really a good hack that Robert keeps mentioning that that's not true. So maybe I'm not that clueless, or not any more clueless than other clueless people. But basically, concealer is somewhat a moisturizing product. That's one of its functions, and you don't want to put anything like that on your eyes to work as a base for eyeshadow. You want the eyeshadow primer to be somewhat dry, not drying, but dry, so that the eyeshadow does not slide off of it and it doesn't get destroyed by your natural skin oils. So I am currently waiting on a package from Jolzy that will have eyeshadow primer, so I'm so excited. So right now I'm not using any primer at all. I figured, okay, fine, no primer is probably better than concealer. It's working okay for me without a primer even, but I'm really excited to see how the colors pop with an actual primer. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what mistakes of these you've yourself made, or maybe you have some other ones to share. I'd love to know, because I'm always learning. You can find me in my blog, KBeautyHobbit.com, and on Instagram at KBeautyHobbit. And of course, in my private Facebook group, Korean Beauty Fanatics. We just hit 10,000 members yesterday, and I'm so excited. I'd love to have you there. I will see you in my next video. I hope you're having a wonderful time until then. And please remember to always listen to your skin. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye.